In so many ways, the story of 2024 is one of struggles. As the century forces itself into the end of its first quarter, humanity struggles to come to terms with its own political, economical, and environmental crises, only to find that they will likely continue to struggle into the decades to come. "2024 feels like the year that reminds us that while the past 20 or so years have felt like the end of a history, nothing in fact is over. That is perhaps why our best films of 2024 feels like a concluding chapter that psychs you up in the end. A quietly hopeful revelation that the struggle continues. In terms of the sheer quantity of good films, 2024 should be called the year of horror. So many horror films this year give us that feeling of a frightful roller coaster ride that defines what is so fun about this genre. We wouldn't say most of these films are masterpieces, but their sincere goodness really got us through the year. Longlegs, Strange Darling, even Smile 2, any of them could have taken this spot. But Oddity gave me the most satisfying story and the second best final shot of the year. Mind you, it is best to go into this movie completely blind. To the naked eye, All of Us Strangers will seem like a pessimistic film, almost indulging in self-punishment. But as one of the first films we've seen this year, Andrew Hay's adaptation of Taiichi Yamada's novel feels more like an affirmation of the purity of human emotions even in the face of defeat. It is an early warning shot that this is the year when complete sincerity will reign. Instead of dissecting sentimentality, Andrew Scott and Paul Mescal let it pour out to courageously devastating ends. Special shout out to Paul Mescal, who has become the rising star to watch in 2024 following his impressive work in 2023's After Sun. We've said this before that Villeneuve's Dune saga feels like the Western epic of the 2020s. Dune Part 2 confirms this by sticking to its postmodernist character, making us question the nature of history as the credit rolls. While this saga can sell itself on a spectacle alone, it is this thesis of the story that delivers the most impactful, gut-punching message. And that message is that the old stories of saviors and righteous leaders that have comforted us through the modern era are in fact shams. This is the 2020s when modern narratives are doomed to crumble. It was Chani, the rebellious Fremen, who got it right in the opening of Dune Part 1. The question is not who will be our savior, but who will be our next oppressors. Rose Glass's second feature continues her exploration into toxic relationships, while her debut film, Saint Maud, peers into the intimate relationship within oneself or with God. Glass expands her universe in Love Lies Bleeding. She digs into the toxicity inherent in all human relationships, exposing its often neglected beauty. And yet for a film about toxic relationships, Love Lies Bleeding finds surprising chemistry among its cast. The big names, Kristen Stewart,
It'll be the last fucking thing you do.
Ed Harris, Dave Franco, they were great, but so were the lesser-known actors such as Katie O'Brien, Anna Baryshkov, Jenny Malone, who I felt were often given even more challenging roles. Perhaps that's the ultimate message a perfect blend can poison too. If you're looking for a self-contained thriller with a memorable protagonist, Rubber Ridge has got you covered. The story of a man trying very hard to fight from within a rigged system only to be pushed to fight without and at times against it. It feels like a tale as old as time. It has the flavor of a classic western set in the political context of the 2020s. Aaron Pierre is a revelation here, just like Paul Mescal last year. And if the trajectory of Mescal's career is any indication, 2025 is going to be Aaron Pierre's to take. This is for us the biggest surprise of the year. The Wild Robot had no business being as good as it was. But instead of making another passable kids movie, DreamWorks opted for lush landscapes and incredibly kinetic animations with details rivaling that of Studio Ghibli. It also opted for a post-humanist story that tackles the issue of mortality in ways that young children could grasp. Death, the film implicitly argues, reflects the tenacity of life. It is this underlying realness that gives its animated and non-human characters unbelievable humanity. We're quite certain that if the horror community were to deliberate on what film they will pick to make the genre's long-awaited run at the prestigious award seasons, they would overwhelmingly pick Coralie Forger's twisted body horror, The Substance. Admittedly, this one was a grower for us. We initially ranked the film as fine and it was not even going to make this list at all. Then we started thinking about it. A body horror about a celebrity creating another version of themselves to remain young in the limelight. It seems obvious. And yet Forger's film is, as far as we know, one of the first.
Let me introduce you to the shareholders. They have been dying to meet you.
This premise is a goldmine for themes about gender, fame, image, drug abuse, impermanence, and so on. Forger mined everything, creating a film that goes beyond the realm of shock to one of profundity. As we progress deeper into the new century, the coming-of-age films of our era begin to reference the late 20s and early 2010s. Titi was the first film that portrayed an era we were very familiar with. This was why the film's cringy moments were particularly visceral to us.
He just called me a whore!
Director Sean Wang likely counted on these kinds of reactions as he cobbled scenes from his actual experiences into an impressively confessional debut feature. We loved the parts where Wang shared details of what it was like to grow up as an Asian in America, from having a bilingual conversation with his mother,
你们这些惹是生非的小孩。
lying that you're half Asian to appear cooler,
Wait, so, if you're Asian, does that mean your husband is white?
What?
and that complicit silence when the girl you like said, "You're pretty cute for an Asian." Wang explores his internalized racism with such brutal honesty that you cannot help but respect it. This year's youngest director, 25-year-old Posathorn Vachalapanit, made a debut feature that confronts the nature of memory, history, and time, contributing to a growing oeuvre of Thai films tackling the contentious issue of collective memory and history. Rivulet of Universe shows us intertwining stories of people, young and old, as they confront their past and their future. Their mundane dilemmas echo myths and legends. Vachalapanit contrasts historical objects with modern humans, meditating on the fact that we live in a web of meaning that erodes and changes over time. He weaves together themes of race, ethnicity, and gender, only to deconstruct them into patches upon which he asks us to project what we see. Moving from an art house film contemplating the nature of time, humanist vampire seeking consenting suicidal person is what I would call pure vibes. It seems that Ariane Louis Siese and her co-writer Christine Duyon were looking and no doubt struggling with the state of the world today. It appears that they started to think, what would happen if a vampire that cannot kill meets a human that wishes to die? Then they go from there. This is a treatise on the meaning of life cloaked in a quirky love story. The enjoyment we felt watching this movie is just about the purest we felt all year. Much like Sean Baker's previous films, Anora is the story of the American underclass. His past films, such as the Florida Project, have sought to grasp a level of dramatic realism unforeseen in any contemporary American film.
What else? Why you gotta count it like I'm broke?
Anora went in a different direction, diving deep into absurdity. But in that absurdity of a screwball comedy about a stripper marrying a young Russian oligarch's son only to be chased around the city by the oligarch's underling, we find a kernel of truth.
Where are you going?
The car.
It's 5-minute walk.
No, I'm not walking down there.
No, I'm not gonna look for other parking. Come on, let's go.
Okay, yes, of course. What does...
In the way Baker wrote the final scene in the film, and in Mikey Madison's life-changing performance, we find a tragedy universal to all living in the contemporary time. According to the jury selected to pick India's submission for the Best Foreign Language Film category at the Oscar, Payal Kapadia's soulful pairing of a love story and a lone story was not chosen because it felt like a European film taking place in India. This is a bit reductive. All we imagine as light borrows tools and techniques not to create smokes and mirrors, but to convey the universal truth of human experiences. Its use of light as metaphor, for example, is cliched, but so sincere that it touches you every time. Everyone in the cast is perfect, but Kani Kusutri would be my pick for Best Female Performance of 2024. She is the soul of a film that channels the human pleas for connection and a cure for the disease of loneliness. If I had the power, I would pick this as this year's Best Picture at the Oscars. In 2021, we named Ryusuke Hamaguchi's Drive My Car as the best film of the year. The fact that this film was at one point slated to top this 2024 list is a testament to his enigmatic power. Evil Does Not Exist begins with tranquility and ends with mystery, the kind of mystery that you're meant to ponder about without ever arriving at an answer. Hamaguchi harnesses that power to quietly question the established narratives of progress and counter-progress, and simply watches those narratives crumble. The dichotomy between humanity and nature was brutally deconstructed in scene after scene, which left us in absolute awe. We were practically punch-drunk by the end. It took weeks for us to come to terms with the film and its brilliant message about our modern epoch. Judging by our out-of-cinema reaction, Inside Out 2 felt at the moment like it was our favorite film of the year.
Hello, everybody! Oh my gosh.
It is also the best illustration of the effect of watching the right film at the right time.
Okay, how can I help?
Don't get me wrong, Inside Out 2 is excellent regardless of when you watch it. It is smart. It is sensitive and as intensely emotional as a Pixar film can ever be. But it's our specific experience that puts it so high on this list. At a time where we kept seeing bad news after bad news, that experience of sitting in the cinema and hearing kids asking their parents about the implication of being anxious, hearing parents stifling tears towards the end of the film, and hearing conversations with people about what emotions we think were controlling each of us. That was such a meaningful experience. And that is what makes this Pixar sequel a staple in our 2024 memory. In 2015, a journalist intern, Shiori Ito, went out for dinner and drinks with former Washington Post bureau chief of Tokyo, Noriyuki Yamaguchi. Yamaguchi proceeded to rape her. Ito tried to report what happened to the police, but her case never advanced. Ito did not stop. She spoke out in public, she wrote a book, and she made this documentary. Her fight would spark the Me Too movement in a country long dominated by patriarchy and conservative political institutions. Black Box Diaries broke us, but then it inspired us. As its title suggests, this is essentially a diary. So while the story carries the weight and impact of 2015's Spotlight, we are painfully aware that we are watching actual footage of Ito herself, not someone else playing her. Adding to that layer, she made the film herself. This imbues the documentary not with realism, but with an emotional truthfulness that goes beyond facts. Ito has compared editing the film to exposure therapy. The earnestness comes through in the final product, which seems to transcend the medium of cinema to reach peak humanness, showing us, by example, that a fight can never end as long as I'm still here.
I felt like, given, such a old medieval rape law, I felt like what I can do through my profession is to tell a story.